Hello, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer at Functional Aesthetics CC, where we're helping average guys move better in their lives inside and outside the gym. In today's video, it's going to be another training vlog, similar to like last week. However, we're going to be doing some pushing exercises, whereas last week was more of a pulling-based workout. So this is going to be a really simple sort of workout. In my training philosophy, I like to hit all the basic primal movement patterns, even if you are going to break your workouts into pushing, pulling, arm days, things like that. So typically when I'd be doing a chest day or a pushing sort of day, I do like the horizontal pushing with the chest like this. I'd also do some sort of horizontal pulling, just because for the reason that you should be doing at least a 1-to-1 ratio, and probably more ideal since most activities in life we're doing in front of ourselves, and with a lot of people sitting down at a desk a lot of times, you're doing a lot of stuff where you're hunching forward. So maybe up that up to a 2-to-1 ratio of pulling versus pushing exercises. So I'll do a regular pulling exercise workout where I'm doing deadlifts and rows and things of that nature. But then in my bench pressing days, I will also add in some rear deltoid rows and the other component of my training philosophy, which is adding rotational type movements. And primarily I'm talking about core exercises when I talk about that. However, in the case of doing like a chest and shoulder workout, that would have to include things like rotator cuff exercises. So after you've finished doing your primary workout, or in between sets of the primary workout, you can exercise your rotator cuff to just help to create a little bit more balance in that regard. So in this video, just kind of doing a heavier, at least for me, heavy sort of chest day. I'm not a power lifter. More lean towards bodybuilding, but even not so much bodybuilding. That's why I call it, one of the reasons I call it functional bodybuilding, in addition to the reason that I mentioned in my previous video, which is the main reason. But also, I like to more focus on a little bit more athletic components in my training, and versus a purely aesthetic or purely strength focus. So for some guys, if you have a bigger bone structure and things like that, for example, example, difference between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Frank Zane, right? So Arnold Schwarzenegger had a very big bone structure, so for him to carry, 235 to 250 pounds, by whatever estimate you happen to be reading on his frame, would actually look good on him, and he could actually still move well and perform well just because he had that bigger bone structure. Again, another example of that would be Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, or John Cena, who definitely have very big bone structures, right? Now, Frank Zane, on the other hand, he always said that if he was competing around 185, 190 pounds, he felt pretty good, that he looked good and aesthetic and everything like that, and it worked well with his bone structure, because he said, I have a little bit smaller bones, and when I try to get bigger to compete with the bigger guys, when I get up in that 200, 210 pound range, I felt like it was just kind of distorting my physique, and I didn't look as aesthetic, just because the bone structure is smaller. So in my case, I don't have anything against lifting heavier weights and stuff like that, but I'm not going to strictly focus on just getting as strong as possible, because I don't have that genetic makeup to just be a super heavyweight power lifter and things like that. But I'm also not just going to focus on doing a lot of high repetition stuff just because lifting heavy weights is bad. So roundabout way of saying that, for me, these are some heavy numbers, even though they're not super impressive by a powerlifting standard. But if I was going to be doing a higher repetition bodybuilding style training, definitely the weights would be a little bit lower than they are in this video. But because my focus is more on athleticism and not just building as much strength as possible, because I noticed that if I just start doing a lot of super heavy squats or deadlifts, and then not doing as much cardio and higher repetition type things and mobility exercises, that I do start to feel a little bit more cumbersome and less agile, which I don't like that feeling. So I try to get as strong as I can while still maintaining as much athleticism and flexibility, and kind of getting that balance between endurance, strength, muscle mass, and just overall athleticism. So I've been rambling on here for a couple minutes. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Without further ado, we'll get into the video, and then I will see you all on the flip side. Alright guys, we're back at the end of this video here. Hopefully you enjoyed it a little bit. Nothing too earth-shattering. A couple things that I want to add into there is that after you're doing the rear deltoid row, so your rear deltoid row, you're more coming out perpendicular to your torso as opposed to slightly closer to the torso, and that places more of the emphasis on obviously the rear delts as opposed to your lats, which doing a normal one-arm row is going to do. The other thing you might have noticed, which you probably don't see a lot of guys doing in the gym, you probably get a lot of strange looks if you do this in a commercial gym, is the breathing exercises in between the lifts. I started doing this, probably a couple years ago, and I've really found it beneficial to help me recover faster in between sets, have more energy and stuff like that, and kind of focus myself to channel my energy more efficiently into my next lift, rather than just going from back to back to back to back and everything like that, or just kind of wandering around, right? So I guess there's a reason why a lot of martial arts artists and things like that will employ breathing exercises into their training to help, as you say, gather or channel your chi, which is just another way of saying your life force energy. So that's the one aspect there. There was something else I was going to say, and I just kind of blanked out on what that was. Oh yes, so typically in a workout, if I have more time and stuff available, I will also incorporate other exercises, in the vertical pressing. So typically I do overhead presses in the same workout that I'm doing, like shoulder bench presses, right? Now, some people might say, well, maybe that's not a really good idea because you're going to be fatigued from doing the bench press, because the bench press also uses your shoulders, triceps, as well, right? So is one going to negatively affect the other? And that can be true, but I also feel like it kind of warms things up a little bit better. So maybe instead of having them on separate days, have them on the same day, but maybe change the emphasis. So one day you're going heavier on the bench press, right? And then you do more volume and go lighter on your shoulder presses, right? And then flip it, the next week where, or maybe even the next month. So you go like a while where you're doing a lot of high volume for your shoulders and heavier bench pressing. And then you're going, more volume, bodybuilding style for the bench press and heavier overhead pressing. And that way you're not, causing too much of an interference effect because you're training different energy systems, as it were, and provided you're getting enough calories to support that, you should be fine. Okay. Now, if you really, really want to get serious about it, it might be good to do them in separate days, just so you can really maximize that. But that would be like, again, if you're trying to train for just being as strong as you possibly can be in all these lifts, and not more of a well-rounded approach to your fitness and your strength. Okay. A couple other things I wanted to point out is that sometimes when I'm doing my bench pressing stuff, I'll just unrack a weight that I know that I can't lift. So for example, in that case, about 255 pounds is, too much for me to lift at this moment, but I can do partial reps with it. So I will unrack, bring it off, bring it down, maybe halfway, and then just hold it there for maybe 5 seconds and then push it back up, right? And just hold that isometric contraction at the top. So I'm just building that strength, getting used to handling the heavier weight. And then I'll take a lighter weight that I know that can handle a little bit better, such as like maybe 185, 165 pounds. Bring it down all the way to the bottom, come to a complete stop, push it back up, and do pause reps like that to really strengthen up that bottom portion of the movement as well. Now, there's other things you can do too related to the strength curve in the movement, because there's different points in the lift where you get a sticking point. Some people, you'll stick at the bottom, and if you tend to stick at the bottom of the lift, that is usually because you're weaker in your chest muscles, because that's going to be in the shoulder, because that's what is a prime mover out of the bottom of the lift. And then other people, maybe, which is less common, but more at that middle range, before lockout, and you get stuck there. That's not as common, but in that case, you might need to work on doing some more close grip bench presses and stuff to really focus on building up your tricep strength so you can break through those plateaus. Other things you can do is adding bands to the bar or chains, which is going to help, because the first part of that movement, first 3/4 of the movement, is going to be the most difficult, right? And but then once you get past that, it's pretty easy. So you can add those chains so that every link up, you're just adding more weight as the bar goes up. So typically what would be the easy portion of the lift is now more even. So you're more, as they say, flattening out that strength curve. So instead of having it, super hard, and then it's like too easy at the top, you're keeping that resistance and difficulty level more consistent throughout. Now, if you don't have the chains and the bands, you can do kind of what I recommended, is do one set of the weight that you can do the full range of motion with, and then take and do partial reps off the top with, a heavier load and stuff like that. And, if you're going really heavy, you might actually just want to have a spotter to help you to make it more safe, so you don't end up as a, statistic on YouTube on gym fails where, I've actually saw some guy, I think in a video, is pretty funny. Luckily nobody got hurt, but the bar actually snapped while he was squatting some weight. So enough talking here. If you like content related to nutrition, strength training, functional fitness, calisthenics type things like that, as well as the nutrition to go along with that, because obviously to get the best results, especially in terms of how your body looks, and then also if you want elite athletic performance, your nutrition is going to play a large role in regards to that as well. So if you like content and information related to nutrition, whether for aesthetics or athletic performance, and then also information related to preventing and helping to work through injuries if you do indeed end up getting an injury, then consider subscribing to the channel by hitting the button in the lower right hand corner of the screen here. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and we will see you all next time for more health and fitness related information. Thanks, guys.